Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're venturing into the remarkable story of Subutai, Thought-provoking in Vietnamese.
Hmm.
Maybe not as instantly recognizable as, say, Genghis Khan, but, well, his strategic brilliance was absolutely fundamental to the Mongol Empire's conquests.
Exactly. And we're drawing primarily from a Vietnamese Wikipedia article about him for this discussion.
Right.
And it's important to acknowledge right up front that the article itself flags a lack of comprehensive references,
Yeah, I saw that.
which makes our exploration, particularly crucial. We need to be careful, consider the info presented, and really try to dig into Subutai's impact, keeping that limitation in mind.
Absolutely. So our goal today is really to unpack his major accomplishments, try to grasp what made his military mind tick, and understand why this guy who basically masterminded victories across continents isn't quite the household name Genghis Khan is.
Right. It's a good question.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Who was Subutai?
Well, he lived from 1175 to 1248, and he rose to be one of Genghis Khan's most trusted, really vital commanders.
Vital sounds right.
Yeah. He was even considered one of the Four Hounds.
Ah, the Four Hounds.
A term signifying huge loyalty and respect, for four of the Khan's top warriors.
And who are the others again?
Let's see. The source lists Hututlai, Jalikmol, and Tripit alongside Subutai.
Okay. So just being in that group tells you a lot about his standing right from the early days of the empire.
It really does. Speaks volumes. And his influence, it went beyond just his own battlefield skill.
How so?
He was the father of another general, Uriankatai, and grandfather of Agio.
Ah, Aju, who was involved in the fall of the Southern Song dynasty later on.
That's the one. And Subutai himself got the title Trung In.
Which means
Loyal and determined. Really underscores his dedication, I think.
loyal and determined. Fits the picture. So let's get into what made him so revered, his military achievements. This is where it gets, well, pretty incredible.
Indeed. The sheer scale of his career is just astounding. The source says he took part in over 20 major campaigns,
Frenty.
leading to the conquest of, well, numerous countries and territories. But what's really striking is his ability to coordinate troop movements.
Across huge distances, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hundreds of kilometers. Think
Yeah.
about that. No radios, no modern comms. It's a remarkable feat of logistics, of command. Makes you wonder how he did it.
Absolutely. And the article points to some almost unbelievable stuff, like destroying the armies of Hungary and Poland
Right.
within 2 days of each other when they were over 500 kilometers apart.
Yeah. It just highlights this incredible level of strategic foresight and command and control. How did the information even travel that fast? How did he coordinate it all?
It really emphasizes his strategic depth. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about the core Mongol tactics, speed, horsemanship, planned maneuvers,
Yeah.
Subutai seems like he was the absolute master at using those on a massive continental scale.
He really does. The source also mentions what it calls one of history's longest cavalry campaigns.
Oh, yeah. How long?
A staggering 5,500 miles.
Oh,
Apparently conquered 6 countries over 2 years.
wow. Just sustained pressure over that distance. It's hard to even imagine the endurance required. For the soldiers, the horses.
And the supply lines, how did they maintain them?
Good point. And it clearly wasn't just about numbers. Subutai had this keen grasp of the battlefield, adapting constantly.
Like the winter conditions thing.
Exactly. Using frozen lakes and rivers as highways. In Russia, specifically.
Yeah, a stroke of tactical genius. It's mentioned specifically with the campaign against the Russ's armies on the Kalka River, alongside Jebi.
Imagine being the Russ's forces, seeing cavalry charging across what you thought was an impassable frozen
A
ruin.
total surprise, you'd think. It's just this really sharp awareness of the environment, how to use it to your advantage.
So it wasn't just numbers, it was cunning strategy, anticipating weaknesses. Which brings up the question, how did he develop these skills? What were his early successes?
Well, the article does detail some early campaigns. His first big Western one was conquering the Merkits. Beat them at the Chu River in 1216 and then again in 1219.
Right.
Then he was vanguard in the invasion of Khwarizm in 1219.
Vanguard. Okay. What does that tell us?
Big trust from Genghis Khan. The vanguard took the initial hit, needed to be skilled, reliable.
Makes sense. And the Khwarizm campaign itself.
Well, the Mongols were actually outnumbered, according to this source, about 130,000 Mongols against a larger force.
But they won.
They did, through superior tactics, maneuverability, spearheaded by guys like Subutai.
And then there was the chase after the Khwarezm leader.
Yeah, Subutai and Jebi pursued Muhammad II with only like 20,000 troops.
Relentless.
Muhammad died fleeing, but that chase across huge territories really shows the Mongol commitment and their mobility.
Okay, what came next? There was something about a winter campaign.
Right. Subutai wintered in Azerbaijan. Then he strategically circled the Caspian Sea
Why?
to hit the Kipchaks and Cumans from the rear. Classic flanking idea, just on a massive scale. And the article says he managed to divide and conquer the Alans and the Don Kipchaks Cumans first,
Before the main battle.
before the famous victory at the Kalka River in 1223, yeah. Defeated a combined Russian-Cuman army there.
But it wasn't all wins, was it? Something about Volga, Bulgaria.
True. The source mentions an initial defeat against Volga, Bulgaria. Shows even the best face setbacks.
But he came back.
Yeah, returned later with reinforcements and eventually subdued the Kipchaks and Kanglis. Showed resilience. Learned from it, presumably.
So these early campaigns were like his proving grounds, refining his skills,
Yeah.
building experience against different enemies, different lands.
Exactly. Invaluable experience. Which then leads us towards the Jin dynasty and Western Shia conquests.
Okay, so his role there.
The article highlights him as important in the 1226 campaign against Western Shia.
Right.
And then in 1227, he actually planned to annex the Jin dynasty along the Wei River.
But
Genghis Khan died during that Western Shia campaign. So the Jin plan got delayed.
wow, even Mongol plans could be derailed by something like that.
Absolutely. And conquering the Jin turned out to be tough. The source mentions 2 failed Mongol attacks between 1230 and 1232.
Why so difficult?
Probably a combination of strong Jin forces and difficult terrain.
So how did they finally manage it?
It was actually an alliance. Subutai teamed up with the Song dynasty.
Interesting. Mongols making alliances.
Tactical ones, yeah. It shows their flexibility. They brought down the Jin together in 1234.
Okay, so that covers Jin and Western Jia, which brings us west again to Europe, Central and Eastern Europe. This feels like his biggest stage, perhaps.
Many would say so, yeah. The article really emphasizes that this whole invasion was planned and executed under Subutai's direction.
Even sending scouts ahead?
Oh, yeah. Sent scouts deep into Poland, Hungary, even Austria to prepare. That level of reconnaissance is remarkable.
What kind of intelligence network must they have had?
That's a great question. Mongol intel gathering was famously good. It was key to their success.
And wasn't Batu Khan technically in charge of the European campaign?
Nominally, yes. Batu was the overall commander. But this source is pretty clear. Subutai was the actual operational commander, the guy making the real strategic calls.
Right.
He personally ran the campaigns in Kievan Rus', both north and south sectors. And he personally led the attack on Hungary.
Which leads to the Battle of Mohi, April 10th, 1241. The details here sound devastating.
They do. The article recounts how Subutai first lured the Hungarian army to the plains of Mohi after some earlier Mongol wins.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. Then it describes this classic Mongol pincer move. A smaller force secretly crossed the Sajo River, hit the Hungarian camp on the flank.
While the main force did what?
Advanced across the bridge, faced really heavy resistance there, apparently.
So a frontal assault combined with a flank attack.
Right. And what's also notable is they use siege engines.
Siege engines in a field battle.
Yeah, to clear the bridgehead, basically. Clear the path for the cavalry and infantry. Shows sophisticated combined arms thinking, adapting siege tech for the field.
Okay, that's clever. But the really killer move was the feigned retreat, wasn't it?
That's what the source describes. Mongol archers pretended to fall back.
Drawing the Hungarians out.
Exactly. Lured them into a swampy area.
Trap.
A deadly one. The Mongols then surrounded them, rained arrows down on the trapped soldiers.
The casualties.
Catastrophic for the Hungarians. The source estimates around 40,000 killed.
40,000. And Mongol losses.
Less than 1,000, according to this account.
Oh, wow. A stark illustration of his tactics and the Mongol army's discipline.
Absolutely crushing. And if you think about why Subutai isn't as famous, maybe it's partly this. He often operated under others. First Genghis, then Batu.
The strategic genius behind the throne, so to speak, less visible to the public eye.
Perhaps. It's a plausible explanation. His role as the architect might just be less obvious.
That's a really insightful point. Okay, so what about his later years, the end of his career?
Well, the article mentions something truly tantalizing. In late 1241, just after Mohi, Subutai was actively planning an invasion of the Holy Roman Empire, Germany.
Seriously, an invasion of the HRE?
That's what the source says. But then Ogadai Khan, Genghis' successor, died suddenly.
And the invasion was called off.
Canceled. Abruptly. All the Mongol princes had to return east for the election of a new Khan.
Wow. Talk about a pivotal moment in European history. What might have happened?
Undeniably, a huge what-if. And even after that, Subutai wasn't done.
Even in his later years?
No. The source says in 1247, when he was 70 years old,
70.
he led a campaign against the Song dynasty in China.
Incredible.
That was his last major command, though. He returned home in 1248, spent his final days by the Toul River near modern Ulaanbaatar. Passed away aged 72.
So wrapping this up, Subutai was, unequivocally a military strategist of the absolute highest caliber.
No question.
His role in expanding the Mongol Empire just can't be overstated. He was instrumental in so many key victories.
And his methods, his tactics, the logistics, they were truly ahead of their time. Coordinating these complex operations across continents, it's still studied today.
Yeah, displayed just an exceptional mastery of warfare. Different terrains, different enemies. It didn't seem to matter.
That ability to plan and execute these intricate campaigns over immense distances, that's his defining genius, really.
So here's something to leave you, the listener, with. A thought to chew on.
Okay.
Imagine Ugadai Khan hadn't died when he did. If Subutai had pushed forward with that invasion of the Holy Roman Empire, how profoundly might that single event have reshaped Europe, reshaped world history as we know it?
It's a massive counterfactual.
Yeah.
Really makes you think.
It certainly does. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.